Ever notice how the worst moments of your life always happen at red lights? There I was. Thursday afternoon, 3rd Street and Morrison, stuck behind a Tesla so shiny it looked like it had never seen Portland rain. The light turned green. Nothing. I waited. Still nothing. So I did what any impatient Portlander does. I honked. The driver turned around. My husband turned around. Calvin. My Calvin. The man who'd kissed me goodbye that morning with "long day at the office, babe," turned around in a $100,000 car I'd never seen before. And next to him, a woman. Not just any woman. A very visibly, unmistakably pregnant woman with copper red hair and a hand resting on a belly that looked ready to pop. Our eyes locked through 2 car windows and approximately 9 years of marriage. His face went from annoyed to confused to absolutely terrified in about 2 seconds flat. It was like watching someone's soul leave their body in real time, except his soul was apparently living a whole separate life in the Pearl District. The pregnant woman looked at him, then at me, then back at him. You could see the gears turning. Badly. I'm Bethany Mitchell, by the way. 36, high school art teacher, professional overthinker, and, as of 3 minutes ago, the idiot who thought her marriage was solid just because her husband said, "I love you," every morning before his commute. Turns out his commute included a detour through an entire secret relationship. Who knew? Calvin Parker, 39, civil engineer, the man who once spent 45 minutes explaining the structural integrity of the St. John's Bridge during our 3rd date. The man who color-coded our shared calendar. The man who was currently having what I can only describe as a full-body panic attack in the middle of downtown traffic. He got out of the car. Actually got out. Like that was going to help. Bethany, save it. I put my Subaru in park right there in the middle of the street. Cars honked behind me. I didn't care. Who is she? The redhead. Bless her heart, she actually got out too. Looked between us like she'd walked into the wrong movie theater. Calvin? What's happening? Who is this? Who is this? I laughed. Actually laughed. Honey, I'm the wife. Been the wife for 9 years. 7 dating, 2 married, 1 apartment, 1 house, 1 joint checking account, and apparently 0 functioning brain cells because I never saw this coming. She went pale. Calvin went paler. Bethany, please, let me explain. He stepped closer. I stepped back. Explain what? That she's your Uber driver? Your sister? Your very pregnant coworker who you just happened to be driving around in a car I've never seen before? It's complicated. Complicated. The redhead cut him off, her voice rising. Complicated. Calvin, you said you were going to tell her today. You promised me you'd tell her about us, about the baby, about... She stopped, looked at me. Wait, you didn't know? He didn't tell you? And there it was. The moment when 2 women realize they've been played by the same man in completely different games. I looked at her belly, looked at Calvin, did the math. How long? Bethany. How? Long. The redhead answered. A year. We've been together a year. The baby's due in 6 weeks. She turned to Calvin, her face crumpling. You said you were getting divorced. You said she knew. You said, a year? I felt my voice crack. Pulled it back. I would not cry in the middle of 3rd Street like some Lifetime movie reject. You've been lying to me for a year? Traffic was backing up. Someone yelled at us to move. I ignored them. Calvin tried again. Beth, please, can we go somewhere and talk about this like adults? Like adults? I laughed again. Couldn't stop laughing. You're having a baby with another woman and you want to have an adult conversation? Sure. Here's an adult conversation. Get in your fancy car, take your pregnant girlfriend, and drive straight home. Our home. The one with both our names on the mortgage. You've got exactly 5 minutes head start before I get there. Beth, or... I pulled out my phone. I call your boss right now and ask him about the corporate credit card you've been using to pay for that Tesla. Because that's a company car, isn't it? Model S? Executive lease program? The one you said you couldn't get approved for? His face confirmed everything. The redhead gasped. Company card. You said you bought it. You said, 5 minutes, Calvin. Clock's ticking. I got back in my car, hands shaking so hard I could barely grip the steering wheel. I watched him in my rearview mirror, standing between his two cars, his two lives, looking like a man who'd just realized he'd been playing chess while everyone else was playing checkers, and losing. The drive home took 12 minutes. Felt like 12 hours. My brain was doing that thing where it replays every moment of your relationship looking for clues. The late nights, the conferences in Seattle, the new cologne, the way he'd stopped reaching for me in bed 6 months ago, the separate checking account he'd opened for business expenses. I'd been so stupid. So willfully, blissfully stupid. Our house in the Beaumont neighborhood looked exactly the same as when I'd left that morning. Craftsman style, blue paint, white trim, window boxes I'd planted with pansies last spring. Picture perfect, magazine worthy, built on lies. Calvin pulled up 2 minutes after me. Alone. "Where is she?" I asked as he walked up the driveway. I told her to go home. "Home to where? The apartment you're paying for? The one that comes out of our money?" He stopped walking. How did I know? "Calvin, I'm not an idiot. I just played one for the last year." I unlocked the door. "Get inside. We're going to have that adult conversation now. And you're going to tell me everything, every single thing. Or I swear to God, I will burn your entire life to the ground." He followed me inside, and I could see it in his eyes. He was calculating, wondering how much I knew, how much I'd guessed, how much he could still spin. He had no idea I was about to become his worst nightmare. Because here's the thing about art teachers. We notice details. We see patterns. We understand composition. And right now, I was looking at the complete picture of my marriage for the first time. And I was about to deconstruct it, piece by piece, until there was nothing left but the truth. You know what's funny about confronting your cheating husband? The sheer audacity of watching him try to manage the narrative while sitting on your couch, the one you picked out together at IKEA on a Sunday afternoon 2 years ago. Calvin sat across from me in our living room, looking like a defendant at trial, which, essentially, he was. "Start talking," I said, pouring myself a glass of wine. Didn't offer him any. "And, Calvin? Don't insult my intelligence more than you already have." He ran his hands through his hair. Classic Calvin stall tactic. "Her name is Sienna. We met at a company mixer last February." February. I did the math. "So you've been lying to me for 13 months, not 12. Great. Love the precision. Beth, keep going." He shifted uncomfortably. "It just happened. We started talking. She was new to Portland, didn't know anyone. Oh, poor thing. Must have been so hard being young and alone in the big city. Good thing she found a married man to show her around." I took a sip of wine. "What is she, 25? 28. 28. Fantastic. 8 years younger than me, which in guy math makes her basically a different species." I leaned back. "So you met in February, started sleeping with her when? Do we have to—" "When, Calvin?" "March. Late March." I laughed. Actually laughed. "Late March? That's right after our anniversary weekend in Cannon Beach. The one where you told me I was the love of your life. The one where we talked about maybe starting a family." I set down my glass before I threw it. "Guess you decided to start one without me." His face flushed. "It wasn't like that." "Then what was it like? Paint me a picture. Use details. You're good at details, right? You managed to hide an entire relationship and a pregnancy for over a year. I never meant for this to happen. Nobody ever means for it to happen, Calvin. But somehow your pants ended up on her bedroom floor repeatedly for 13 months. Somehow you managed to coordinate schedules, rent an apartment, lease a Tesla, and knock her up. That's not accident. That's commitment. More commitment than you've shown our marriage in 2 years. He flinched. Good. The apartment, I continued. Pearl District. How much? $2,800 a month. $2,800. And you paid how? Silence. Calvin, we're going to play a fun game called I Already Know the Answer. How did you pay? Our savings account and some of the money your mom left you. The room went cold. My mother's money? The inheritance she left me 6 months before she died? The money she saved her entire life working double shifts as a nurse? That money? I was going to pay it back. With what? I stood up. Had to move. Had to do something with the rage building in my chest. You make $78,000 a year. You're paying $2,800 for her apartment. You leased a Tesla, and you think you were going to pay back $40,000. Were you planning to rob a bank or just continue stealing from me? It wasn't stealing. It's my money, Calvin. Money my dead mother left me. And you spent it on your pregnant girlfriend's rent. I paced. What else? What else did you spend our money on? He looked at the floor. Furniture for her place. Some clothes. Her doctor's appointments. The insurance company wouldn't cover her until... Stop. I held up my hand. You bought furniture? Played house? While I was here teaching teenagers about color theory and coming home to meal prep and asking about your day? You were always so busy with school. Don't you dare. I pointed at him. Don't you dare make this about me being busy. I was busy building a life. Our life. While you were apparently building a completely different one across town. The doorbell rang. We both froze. Expecting someone? I asked sweetly. Calvin's face went white. Beth, don't... I opened the door. Sienna stood there. Mascara-streaked face, enormous belly, looking like a Pinterest board for pregnant and dramatic. Is he here? She demanded. He won't answer my calls. Oh, he's here. Come on in. Join the party. I stepped aside. She waddled in. And I know that sounds mean, but she literally waddled and stopped when she saw Calvin. You left me at the intersection. I had to call an Uber. You can afford an Uber but not your own apartment? I asked conversationally. Interesting financial priorities. She turned to me, eyes blazing. This is your fault. If you'd just let him go. Let him go? I laughed. Honey, I didn't know I was supposed to be holding on. Last I checked, we were married. Which typically implies a certain level of commitment, but clearly I missed the memo about the open relationship policy. He doesn't love you anymore. Oh, is that what he told you? I looked at Calvin. Is that the story? Big bad wife doesn't understand you? Relationship dead for years? Let me guess. We haven't been intimate in months. We're basically roommates. You were planning to leave anyway? His silence was confirmation. Here's what actually happened in our marriage, Sienna. May I call you Sienna? We had dinner together every night this week. Sunday, he made his mom's pot roast recipe. Monday, we watched that cooking show you love, Calvin. Well, that I thought you loved. Tuesday, we talked about refinancing the house. Wednesday morning, he told me I looked beautiful. Yesterday, literally yesterday, he texted me, "Can't wait to come home to you," with a heart emoji. I pulled out my phone, showed her the message. Her face crumpled. So either my husband is an Oscar-worthy actor, I continued, or he's a lying, manipulative, selfish coward who wanted two lives and thought he was smart enough to maintain both. Which do you think it is? The baby is his. I don't doubt it. The baby is absolutely his. You know what else is his? This house, this mortgage, this legal marriage, and about $40,000 he owes me. $40,000? She turned to Calvin. You said you had savings. You said after the baby came, we'd get a house. With what money? I asked. He's been spending mine. Our joint account is down to $1,800. I checked this afternoon. His 401k has a loan against it. And that Tesla? Company lease that he's not supposed to use for personal driving. Which means every mile to your apartment is technically fraud. Sienna looked like I'd slapped her. You said, you promised. He promises a lot of things, I said. Question is, which promises is he actually keeping? She started crying. Ugly crying. The kind where your whole face gets blotchy. Calvin finally found his voice. Sienna, go home. Beth and I need to talk. Home? She spun on him. What home? The apartment you said was ours? The one you're apparently stealing money to pay for? It's complicated. Stop saying that, she screamed. Everyone keeps saying it's complicated. It's not complicated. You either love her or you love me. You either want this baby or you don't. Which is it? The silence stretched. Calvin looked between us like a man watching his life split into two bad options. Get out, I said quietly. Both of you. Beth, get out. Take your pregnant girlfriend, take your lies, and get out of my house. I walked to the door, opened it. You've got until Sunday to figure out where you're living. Because it's not here. Sienna left first, sobbing into her phone, calling someone for a ride. Calvin lingered. We need to talk about this. Sunday, Calvin. Lawyer's office. I'll text you the address. I looked at him. Really looked at him. You know what the saddest part is? I would have forgiven an affair. People make mistakes. But you built an entire alternate life. You stole from me. You lied every single day for over a year. That's not a mistake. That's a choice. And I will never forgive you for choosing her over basic human decency. He opened his mouth, closed it, left. I locked the door behind him, poured another glass of wine, and sat in the sudden silence of my house. Then I opened my laptop and started making a list. Time to see exactly how deep this hole went. Here's what they don't tell you about betrayal. It turns you into a detective. And I was about to get my honorary badge. Friday morning. Calvin hadn't come home. Good. I'd spent the entire night doing what any self-respecting woman would do. Going through every file, every document, every digital footprint of our marriage like I was preparing for the bar exam. By 3 a.m., I'd found the first crack in his story. By 5 a.m., I'd found the whole crumbling foundation. The company credit card he'd used for the Tesla? Not just the Tesla. Restaurants I'd never been to. Hotels in Seattle, San Francisco, even one weekend in Napa Valley, during a conference he'd told me about. The conference was real. The attendance was not. I found the actual attendee list online. Calvin Parker? Nowhere on it. But here's where it got interesting. I logged into our joint bank account, the one he thought I never checked because he handled the finances. Turned out Calvin had been transferring money to a second account, an account I didn't know existed, in small increments. 500 here, 800 there. Never enough to trigger my attention, but over 13 months? Almost $60,000. $60,000 missing from our marriage. I sat back, coffee cup shaking in my hands. This wasn't just an affair. This was premeditated financial infidelity. This was a man planning an exit strategy while kissing me goodnight. My phone buzzed. Text from my best friend, Marnie. Coffee? You sounded insane last night. I'd called her at midnight, rage-crying about Calvin. She'd listened to the whole story without interrupting once. A superpower only best friends possess. We met at our usual spot, Powell's Coffee on Hawthorne. Marnie took one look at me and ordered a double espresso. You look like you haven't slept, she said. I haven't. I've been busy becoming a forensic accountant. I showed her my phone, screenshots of every transaction, every transfer, every lie documented in neat little rows. Her eyes widened. Beth, this is actually criminal. Oh, it gets better. I pulled out a folder. Yes, I'd printed documents. I'm an art teacher. We love folders. Remember how he said Sienna's apartment was $2,800 a month? The one he's paying for with your mom's money? That one. Guess what I found? I slid a document across the table. Lease agreement. Guess whose name is on it? Marnie read it. Her jaw dropped. Both of them? Calvin and Sienna? Joint lease. Which means he's not just paying her rent. They're legally co-tenants. Which means when I divorce him, that apartment is a marital asset used for adultery. I smiled. Actually smiled. In Oregon, that matters. You talked to a lawyer already? Called one at 6 a.m., emergency consultation. Turns out my high school friend Rachel is now a divorce attorney. Who knew? I sipped my coffee. She's reviewing everything this afternoon. But here's the best part. You ready? There's more? The Tesla. The fancy Model S he's been driving around? It's a corporate lease, which means he's supposed to keep mileage logs. Company policy. For taxes. I pulled out another document. I called his office, said I was with the accounting department doing an audit. Very friendly, very helpful. You didn't. I did. And guess what? His reported mileage doesn't match his actual mileage. Not even close. He's been logging trips to client sites that were actually trips to Sienna's apartment. That's fraud. Tax fraud. The kind that gets you fired and possibly investigated by the IRS. Marnie stared at me. Who are you, and what did you do with my friend who cried during Toy Story 3? That friend died Thursday at 2:47 p.m. at a red light on 3rd Street. This is her evil twin. I leaned forward. I'm not just divorcing him, Marnie. I'm dismantling him, legally, thoroughly, and with extreme prejudice. Remind me never to cross you. Too late. You already borrowed my favorite sweater and returned it with a stain. She laughed despite herself. So, what's the plan? I pulled out my phone, opened notes. I'd titled it, Operation Phoenix, because I was about to rise from these ashes, and Calvin was about to burn. Phase 1. Document everything. Already done. I've got bank statements, credit card bills, text messages I recovered from our shared iPad. Yes, he forgot to turn off syncing. And about 40 photos of him and Sienna from her Instagram that she posted before making it private. Her Instagram is public? Was. I screenshot everything before she locked it down, including the post from 6 months ago where she's wearing my grandmother's necklace, the one Calvin said he lost. Marnie gasped. He gave her your grandmother's necklace? Yep, that's theft. I have documentation proving it was mine. Rachel says I can file a police report. I scrolled down. Phase 2. Secure assets. I already transferred half of our joint account into my personal account this morning. Legal in Oregon during separation. Changed the locks on the house. Also legal since my name's on the deed too. You changed the locks? 7 a.m. Locksmith named Tony. Very efficient. Gave me a discount when I told him why. I continued. I also called our mortgage company, put a freeze on any refinancing attempts without my signature. Called our insurance company, removed him from my car insurance. Called our credit card company, reported his card as lost. It'll take him 3 weeks to get a new one. You're terrifying. I'm thorough. There's a difference. I took a breath. Phase 3. Let him implode. This is the fun part. I'm not going to chase him. I'm not going to beg. I'm going to let him sit in that apartment with Sienna and their upcoming baby and their complete lack of financial planning, and I'm going to watch reality hit him like a freight train. How long until the baby comes? 6 weeks. Maybe less. First babies can be early. I smiled grimly. Which means in 6 weeks he's going to be responsible for a newborn, a girlfriend who just realized he's broke, and a wife who's about to take him for everything he's worth. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. We need to talk. It's Sienna. I showed Marnie. Do not respond, she said immediately. Oh, I'm responding. I typed quickly. Calvin's attorney can contact my attorney. Otherwise, we have nothing to discuss. You don't have an attorney yet. She doesn't know that. And I will by Monday. I hit send. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Please. I'm pregnant and scared. He's not answering my calls. I don't know what to do. I felt a tiny pang of sympathy. Tiny. Then I remembered her waddling into my house calling this my fault. Not my problem. You made your choices. Live with them. I blocked the number. Marnie whistled low. Ice cold. She's 28. She slept with a married man. She knew he was married. I guarantee he wore his ring around the office. She doesn't get to play victim now that it's inconvenient. I finished my coffee. Besides, I have bigger things to worry about. Like what? Like the fact that I found an email from Calvin to his boss from 3 months ago requesting a transfer to the San Francisco office. Marnie's eyes went huge. San Francisco? San Francisco. He was planning to move. With Sienna, the baby. All of it. Just leave. Probably would have hit me with divorce papers after he was already gone. I pulled up the email on my phone. He wrote, and I quote, My wife and I have discussed relocating for better opportunities. Except we never discussed it, because there is no my wife and I in his plan. There's just him and her. That's sociopathic. That's Calvin. I stood up, gathering my folders. But here's what he didn't count on. I'm not some passive character in his story. I'm not going to make this easy. I'm not going to cry and beg and wonder what I did wrong. I know what I did wrong. I trusted him. And now I'm going to make him wish he'd just been honest. What's phase 4? I smiled. Actually smiled. For the first time since Thursday, it felt genuine. Phase 4 is where I win, and he loses everything. That afternoon, I met with Rachel at her office downtown. She reviewed everything I'd brought, and I'd brought everything. Bethany, she said after an hour of reading, this is one of the most documented cases of marital misconduct I've seen. You could teach a class. Art teacher skills. We're big on evidence and documentation. She laughed. With what you've got here, the financial infidelity, the misuse of marital assets, the tax fraud with the company car, you're not just getting a divorce, you're getting the house, full repayment of your inheritance, and probably alimony. I don't want alimony, I want justice. In divorce court, they're the same thing. She leaned forward. Here's my recommendation. File Monday. Fast and hard. Request immediate temporary orders freezing all assets. With the evidence you have, we'll get it. Then we sit back and let him panic. What about Sienna? What about her? She's not your problem. She's his. Rachel smiled. And when that baby comes and he realizes he can't afford diapers because you've frozen his accounts and he's paying back your inheritance, that's when the real show starts. I left her office feeling something I hadn't felt in 2 days. Powerful. Calvin thought he was so smart. Thought he'd managed everything perfectly. He had no idea I was 10 steps ahead. And the best part? I was just getting started. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. I say it's best served with legal documentation and a smile. Monday morning, 9 a.m. sharp, Rachel filed the divorce papers. By 9:30, Calvin had been served at his office. By 10, my phone was blowing up. I let it ring. I was in the middle of teaching a class on Renaissance art. Priorities. By lunch, I had 17 missed calls and one very long, very panicked voicemail. Beth, what the hell? You froze our accounts. I can't access anything. My cards aren't working. Call me back right now. I deleted it. Took a bite of my sandwich. Turkey and avocado from the deli down the street. Delicious. Marnie texted, "Did you do it?" Filed this morning. He's currently having a meltdown. I love this for you. So did I. The temporary orders hearing happened Wednesday, 5 days after I'd caught him. Calvin showed up looking like he'd aged a decade. No Tesla. Apparently the company had already repossessed it after I'd sent them an anonymous tip about the mileage fraud. He drove up in Sienna's beat-up Honda Civic. Poetic. Rachel was brilliant. She presented our case like she was prosecuting a criminal. Bank statements showing the missing $60,000, the forged signatures on the account transfers. Yes, forged. He'd signed my name twice. The lease agreement for Sienna's apartment using marital funds, and my personal favorite, the recovered text messages where he told Sienna he was handling the wife situation. The wife situation. That's what I'd become. A situation to be handled. The judge was not amused. Mr. Parker, Judge Morrison said, peering over her glasses, you've misappropriated marital funds, committed fraud on financial documents, and engaged in what appears to be systematic deception. Do you have anything to say? Calvin's lawyer, a guy who looked fresh out of law school and utterly overwhelmed, tried to argue that I'd known about the affair and was just being vindictive. Rachel shut that down immediately. Your Honor, my client discovered the affair 6 days ago when she literally ran into her husband and his pregnant mistress at a traffic light. She had zero knowledge before then. The evidence supports this. Judge Morrison granted everything we asked for. Temporary full ownership of the house, full access to all accounts, immediate repayment plan for the stolen inheritance, and, the kicker, spousal support during the divorce proceedings. Calvin would be paying me $2,000 a month until this was finalized. His face went gray. But, Your Honor, his lawyer stammered, my client has a baby on the way. Should have thought about that before committing fraud, Judge Morrison said dryly. Next case. We walked out of that courthouse and I felt 10 feet tall. That was beautiful. I told Rachel. That was easy. He gift-wrapped this case for us. She grinned. Wait until the IRS gets involved with those tax returns. You reported him? I'm obligated to report suspected fraud. It's the law. She winked. Funny how that works. The real fireworks started 3 weeks later. Sienna went into labor. Exactly 3 weeks early, right on schedule with what the doctors had been warning about high-stress pregnancies. I know because Calvin called me at 2 a.m., desperate. Beth, please, I need money. The hospital needs a deposit. Insurance isn't covering everything. I don't have... You have $2,000 you owe me this month. Use that. That's for rent. Sienna's landlord is threatening to evict us. Landlord? I thought you were on the lease? Silence. Then, she couldn't afford it after you ran out of my money to spend on her? I sat up in bed. Calvin, you made choices. Multiple choices. Over 13 months of choices. Now you get to live with them. I'm begging you. Remember when I begged you to be honest with me? When I asked you in February if everything was okay, and you said you were just stressed about work? When I asked in June if we were good, and you kissed me and said you'd never been happier? My voice went cold. I begged too. Difference is, I deserved answers. You deserve exactly what you're getting. I hung up. Marnie, who was sleeping over for moral support and wine, looked at me from the guest bed. Harsh. Necessary. I lay back down. He's got a corporate job and a college degree. He'll figure it out. I did. The baby came at 6 a.m. A girl. 7 pounds, 3 ounces. I know because Sienna's sister posted about it on Facebook, and I may have been doing some light social media stalking for research purposes. By noon, Sienna had posted a photo, her looking exhausted, Calvin looking terrified, and a tiny baby with a tuft of dark hair. The caption, "Welcome to the world, Melody Harper Parker." Daddy's little surprise. I stared at that photo for a long time, felt nothing. Maybe a little pity for the baby who didn't ask for any of this. But Calvin? I felt absolutely nothing. My phone buzzed. Text from Rachel. You sitting down? Calvin's company fired him. Effective immediately. I sat down. What? Tax fraud investigation. They suspended him pending review 2 weeks ago. Remember when they took the Tesla? Well, the review finished. They found irregularities dating back 18 months. He's done. I called her immediately. He's unemployed? As of this morning, which means he can't pay spousal support. Oh, he still has to. Court order. He'll just have to figure it out. She paused. Beth, this is falling apart faster than I expected. His lawyer called me today trying to negotiate a settlement. What kind of settlement? He'll give you the house, repay the inheritance over 5 years, and agree to the divorce if you waive spousal support going forward. I thought about it. Calvin, jobless, with a newborn, and a girlfriend who was probably realizing what she'd actually signed up for. Tell him I'll think about it, I said. Give me a week. I didn't need a week. I needed 3 days. 3 days to watch Calvin's life completely unravel on social media. Because, yes, Sienna was one of those people who posted everything. Day 1 post. Overwhelmed but blessed. Being a new mom is hard. Day 2 post. When you realize babies are expensive and your partner lost his job the day after she was born. Prayers needed. Day 3. Post. Just a photo of her crying with the caption, I can't do this. That's when Sienna's mother got involved. I know because she called me. Actually called me. Someone must have given her my number. Ms. Mitchell? This is Linda Vaughn, Sienna's mother. What can I do for you? I'm calling to apologize for my daughter, for this whole mess. She sounded tired. I didn't know Calvin was married when they started dating. She told me he was separated, going through a divorce. I would never have encouraged. Mrs. Vaughn, I appreciate the call, but your daughter is an adult. She made her choices. I know she did. But that baby is innocent. And right now they're staying in my spare bedroom because they can't afford rent. And Calvin can't find work because of some investigation. And Sienna won't stop crying. Her voice cracked. I'm asking mother to mother. I'm not a mother. But you could have been. Should have been. And I'm sorry my daughter helped take that from you. She took a breath. I'm asking you, woman to woman, is there any way to end this? Some kind of settlement? Calvin's lawyer says you're owed money and we'll pay it. My husband and I will take a loan if we have to. Just, please, that baby needs stability. I closed my eyes, thought about Melody, tiny, innocent Melody who'd done nothing wrong, thought about Calvin, who'd done everything wrong. I'll settle, I said finally. But here are my terms. Full ownership of the house, immediately. Full repayment of the $60,000 he stole, $45,000 now, the rest over 2 years with interest, and he signs the divorce papers with no contest. Done. Thank you. I'm not finished. He also writes a letter. Not to me, to keep for Melody, explaining what he did, every detail, why he lied, how he stole, all of it. So when she's old enough, she knows the truth about how she came into this world. Silence. That seems cruel. That seems like accountability. He doesn't get to rewrite this story in 20 years and play the victim. Truth matters. Even uncomfortable truth. I softened slightly. Mrs. Vaughn, I don't blame Melody. I don't even really blame Sienna. Calvin lied to both of us. But he needs to own what he did. Completely. I'll make sure he does. Then we have a deal. The settlement was finalized 3 weeks later. I signed papers in Rachel's office while Calvin signed them at his new apartment. A studio in Gresham he shared with Sienna, her mother, and baby Melody. Cozy. The house was mine. The money was being repaid. Linda and her husband had taken out a home equity loan. The divorce would be final in 6 months. I walked out of that office into a Portland afternoon that smelled like rain and new beginnings. Marnie was waiting in her car. How do you feel? Free, I said, and I meant it. What now? Now? I smiled. Now I live my life, the one I should have been living all along. We drove to our favorite taco place, ordered too much food, and laughed about absolutely nothing important. And somewhere across town, Calvin was probably changing diapers and wondering how he'd gotten here. I didn't care anymore. That's how I knew I'd won. 6 months later, I was standing in my kitchen, drinking coffee and watching rain hit the windows, when the final divorce decree arrived in the mail. Official, legal, done. Bethany Mitchell, single woman, homeowner, survivor of the world's most predictable midlife crisis story. I should have felt something dramatic. Relief, maybe. Sadness. Anger. Instead, I felt calm. Like I'd been holding my breath for 9 years and finally remembered how to exhale. The house looked different now. I'd repainted the living room, that sage green Calvin hated. Bought new furniture, stuff I actually liked, not the investment pieces he'd insisted on. The bedroom had art on the walls now, my students' work, framed and displayed like the gallery it deserved to be. Turns out when you're not funding someone else's secret life, you can afford nice things. My phone buzzed. Marnie. Divorce final? As of 9 a.m. this morning. How do you feel? Like I just got paroled for a crime I didn't commit. She laughed. Drinks tonight? We're celebrating. Can't. Parent-teacher conferences until 7. Tomorrow then. No excuses. I smiled. Deal. The money situation sorted itself out better than expected. Linda and her husband paid back $45,000 immediately, and the remaining $15,000 came in monthly installments. Calvin picked up work as a contractor. Civil engineering firms wouldn't touch him after the fraud investigation, but construction companies were less picky. He made enough to cover child support for Melody and his share of the repayment. Barely. I'd heard through mutual friends, through Facebook stalking, that he and Sienna had split up 4 months after Melody was born. Turns out shared trauma and a screaming infant don't actually build a foundation for lasting love. Shocking. Sienna moved back in with her parents permanently. Calvin got an apartment in Beaverton with 2 roommates. They co-parented on a schedule organized by Linda, because neither of them could be trusted to coordinate anything without adult supervision. And me? I got my life back. Better than back. Forward. I started dating again in month 4. Nothing serious. A few coffee dates, one awkward dinner with a guy who spent the entire time talking about his CrossFit routine, one actually pleasant evening with a librarian named Marcus who made me laugh. It felt strange. Good strange. Like learning to use muscles I'd forgotten I had. Marcus and I went out 3 times before he asked, "So what's your story?" "Everyone our age has one," I told him. The abbreviated version. Traffic light, pregnant girlfriend, divorce, the works. He whistled low. "That's intense. How are you so normal about it?" "Normal?" I laughed. I spent 2 months crying in my car between classes. I burned every photo of him I could find. I may have egged his apartment once. Hypothetically, can't prove anything. Hypothetically. Hypothetically. But eventually you realize staying angry is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. It just makes you sick. I shrugged. He lost everything that mattered. I kept everything that did. That's victory enough. Most people aren't that evolved. Most people didn't have a best friend who physically removed wine bottles from their hands and forced them into therapy. I smiled. Growth isn't optional when Marnie's involved. We didn't work out, Marcus and me. Different life goals. But we're still friends, which feels like progress. Being able to end something healthy without burning it all down. Turns out not everything has to end in disaster. Who knew? I ran into Calvin once, completely by accident. Target on a Saturday morning, because of course it was Target. He looked tired, older. He was buying diapers and baby formula, pushing a cart with one wobbly wheel. Saw me in the checkout line. We made eye contact. He looked away first. Good. I didn't say anything. Didn't need to. What was there to say? Hope fatherhood's treating you well? Karma's a wonderful thing? Thanks for stealing my inheritance and teaching me that trust issues are actually just pattern recognition. I paid for my stuff, paint supplies and a new set of brushes, and left. In the parking lot, I realized I felt nothing. Not anger, not satisfaction, not even pity. Just nothing. That's when I knew I was really done. My students asked me once why I didn't have photos of a husband or kids on my desk like other teachers. Because my life's not in pictures, I told them. It's in right now. This conversation, this moment, you guys. One girl, sharp kid, reminded me of myself at 16, said, "That's either really deep or really sad. Can't it be both?" I smiled. Best things usually are. The final payment came in last month. $15,000 transferred into my account with no fanfare. No note, just numbers on a screen representing the end of a chapter I never wanted to write. I donated half to a women's shelter, kept the rest. Seemed fair. Marnie asked what I was going to do with the money. Maybe a trip, I said. Italy? I've always wanted to see Florence. Study the art in person instead of from textbooks. Alone? Why not? I do everything else alone now. That's not sad. No, I said honestly. It's freeing. Nobody to accommodate, nobody to check with, nobody to lie to me about where they're really going. She hugged me, tight. Look at you, all healed and cynical. I prefer experienced and realistic. Tomato, tomato. So here's what I learned from the great Calvin Parker disaster of my mid-30s. People lie. Sometimes the people you trust most lie the best. That's not a reflection of you. That's data about them. Money matters. Specifically, your money. Keep your inheritance separate. Check those bank statements. Knowledge is power, and ignorance is just expensive. Betrayal doesn't break you unless you let it. It bends you, reshapes you, forces you to rebuild with better materials, stronger foundation, higher standards. And sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's just living well, moving forward, being genuinely happy while they're stuck dealing with consequences. Calvin lost his job, his marriage to me, his relationship with Sienna, and any chance of retirement before 70. I lost a liar, gained a house, and remembered what it feels like to like myself. Math says I won. Last week I painted something new for my classroom. Abstract piece, lots of blues and golds. Chaotic, but intentional. Beautiful in its messiness. A student asked what it represented. Phoenix rising, I said. Rebirth after destruction. Did you go through something destructive? She asked. I smiled. Thought about a red light on 3rd Street. A honk. 2 lives colliding and splitting. Everything that came after. Yeah, I said. But I got through it. And so will you. Whatever your it is. She nodded. Seemed to understand. Kids always do. They're more resilient than adults give them credit for. Maybe we all are. The divorce decree is in a folder now. Filed away. I don't look at it. Don't need to. I know what it says. I'm free. And honestly, that's the only status update that matters. Funny how 1 honk can end a marriage, 3 months can end a career, and 6 months can end a chapter you thought was your whole book. Turns out it was just the prologue. The real story? That starts now. And I'm writing it myself this time.